to Animal Love Languages. My name is Shannon Kutz, and I'm an animal intuitive and sensitive and Reiki practitioner. And behind me, barely visible, I know, nesting, a little roosting in my hair today because I'm wearing it down, is Pearl Kutz, my 23-year-old soul bird and creative muse. He never misses an episode. We're here today with Kara Udziela from Pet's Eye View. We're talking about all things animal communication. Welcome, Kara.
Hi, thank you for having me, Shannon.
I have been trying to make this happen for months now. You were actually one of the first people that I talked with about doing this podcast series. And then my own life intervened, and you've been so patient and so present. And I'm really excited. We're finally getting to do this. And of course, for those of you who are just joining us, we have our broadcast on YouTube, and we also have podcasts. The homepage is on Anchor, and then you can find us on Spotify, Apple, Google, all those great places. And we talk about kind of span the gamut from people who are just curious, like, what is animal communication and how woo is it, all the way to, I think this might be something that I'm really vibing with. I want to find a teacher. I want to, offer my services to rescues. I want to hang out a shingle and get started as a professional, or I just want to feel what it feels like to realize that there's a way to communicate, like a practical, daily, not woo at all, but real birthright way to connect with all the other species in the planet around us. Like that's really possible. It's not just something we see in, movies like Avatar. It's a real, and I hear they're coming out with a second one. We'll see. So that's why I've invited Kara. She's got an amazing practice, not only as an animal communicator and an energy healer and a modern mystic, but also as a teacher and a mentor. And so that's why I wanted her to share everything that she's doing. Normally Pearl isn't this chatty. I think he likes you.
Yeah,
I can tell she has something good to say. And yeah, we're gonna do a little nesting on Mummy's knee, maybe. I know he wants to jump on the keyboard and start flinging the keys off, and that might interrupt our recording. So we're going to try to avoid that.
I love animals here. We don't care.
We're all about animals here. And so welcome if you're listening for the first time. Welcome if you're back. Please leave us a review. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we'll kind of circle back to that at the end. But for now, let's start at the beginning. And Kara, if you would just share a little bit more about, what was it like for you when you realized that it was even possible, like this was something you could do, talk to animals, and kind of how did you start unpacking that journey for yourself?
Well, for me, when I was a very small child, I was always talking to animals, and you'd find me laid out flat on my stomach in the grass, talking to the ladybugs, talking to the flowers. And I had a lot of cousins, but I didn't have a huge amount of friends. And I have cerebral palsy. You can't tell it from me sitting here, but I don't have a lot of mobility. So my imagination was very key. I did not grow up in a family where anything woo-woo was part of the discussion, no meditation, no nothing, right? But I had a cat when I was about 10, 11 years old that I forced my father to adopt, a stray cat from outside, by just looking pitiful and feeding him out on our bench like every day for 4 days. And he finally let the cat come inside. And Patches, who looked like Patches, would follow me to the bus stop for school every day, which was a 10-minute walk from my house. And my friends would just like crack up that this cat would follow me, wait for me to get on the bus. And at 3:15 every day, he would be back there. And I would ask my mom, does he come home? And and he did, but he just knew the schedule, and he'd come and pick me up. And at one point he left, like he went under the gutter instead of following me to the bus stop. And I was like, no, don't. I remember being very distressed. He did not come home for a couple of days. And I told my mom, I think he's going to find another little girl who needs him. And he came back because I was so distraught, but I knew he was saying goodbye. And then he left again, and I didn't see him again. And nobody validated that, and I kind of forgot about it, but I've always been a user of psychics, and I've studied metaphysics and Western mysticism for years. And my older dog was getting very elderly, and I happened to pick up Penelope Smith's first book, Animal Talk. And I just held him at the park and said, like, if this is something I can really do more than just talking to you, but to talk to all animals, that's what I would like to develop. And then I started taking very serious classes in energy healing and animal communication. I completed a 3-year program, actually, in order to not only do that, but to counsel and to teach. And here we are. So,
and here we are.
Grateful for that. Yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
So it's been unfolding for you. You had these little sparks, these inklings, even in the app, it sounds like almost complete absence of any kind of external validation. There was something in you that was saying, this is true. This is a thing. This is worth paying attention to. And so for those of you who are listening or watching and you're thinking, I kind of relate to this. I can kind of resonate. Maybe I haven't shared it with anyone. Maybe I just haven't been aware that there was anyone to share it with. That's why we're here. You're sharing it with us. One of the things I really want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, or maybe even you're a new animal communicator and you're just seeking more support and validation, is that the more you follow your path and your truth, and the more you stay true to that, and you trust that, we don't need to get bogged down, as one of my teachers said, in the how. It's the what that matters most, and staying true to that and being open. That how will open up a path. I can very much relate, Kara, to not feeling like I had necessarily grew up in a family where that was, it wasn't really talked about. And yet it's so feeling alone and feeling kind of like, maybe I'm not sure I have people, let alone I can't find them. Maybe they don't exist. I have found so many great people. Like, this is a tribe. This is a community. It's a smaller world than it seems when you're just getting involved in it. And it's really worth pursuing, because you are going to find out that you do have people. And there are people, a couple steps behind, a couple steps ahead, and right alongside you that are really going to support you and guide you and help you, fully experience who you are. And so, so here you are, Kara, you've taken, you've taken these small steps in terms of just connecting very organically and very trustingly, very openly with animals. And I love that you just named your first cat Patches. I mean, I named my first parakeet Perky. Like, we're so pure when we're kids, right? We're just like, we just say it like we see it,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I just really miss that energy, his energy now, even still.
Yeah. And that's a whole, so many people come, so many of my new first time clients are people that they are missing an animal that's crossed over. And there is this sense that, I don't know, I can kind of still feel them. I don't know. Is it, it's just like the art, we get so bogged down in our minds and not being able to understand it's, that attachment to the physical form versus the energy, the essence of that being that is not in any way, shape, or form dead alongside the body. And that's a whole separate conversation for a different podcast. Yeah. But for now, here we are. You've taken your 3-year course. You have invested probably countless hours and dollars and all kinds of different things into your own growth as a mystic and as a psychic, and in terms of the energy work that you're able to offer. And here we're going, like, here's your journey. And now maybe we're thinking about going pro, as one of my teachers would call it. But I mean, because that can get dicey. It's like you're coming up against yourself, and you're also realizing, we talked about this just a little bit before this podcast started, before I hit record, you're transitioning into a role where you're going to start presenting yourself as being available for others on a consistent basis when they need you. And we spoke a little bit about the integrity of that, and about kind of the setting yourself up for success and taking it seriously, I think, is the phrase that comes to mind. Does that make sense? I'd love for you to speak a little more about that.
I think people get really nervous about doing animal communication. And I don't know if it's just my perception, because I'm busy, so I may only see a snippet of what's going on. So take that as my caveat.
Yes.
But what I feel is there's a large proliferation of teaching going on. And there are a lot of people being turned out as animal communicators, but they don't get a huge amount of help with client management understanding. And if you haven't been in a customer support role or a very professional corporate role, well, I was a PR person for 25 years, right? It is you have to read the room. And there's a piece of that I think we really have to spend time working on when we're considering going pro. And I don't know if this is what you're asking about, but for me, I think the energy healing component is really important. So when you're choosing a teacher, choosing a school, or choosing a set of those things to go together, because let's say that you don't resonate, like there may be a communication school that you don't resonate with the people who lead that school, but they've got a lot of pieces in that school that you like, right? Acupressure, something like that. You can take pieces from that and perhaps learn from someone else. But I think my thing that I'm seeing in this what I see, and you tell me, you're newer, so you may see different things than I do. But I see a lot of proliferation of animal communicators who have absolutely zero anything else to bring to the table. And maybe because I was trained more than a decade ago,
yes,
like, there was a lot less belief in this at that point. So you had to like bring your chops to the table a lot more, because most people do not come to an animal communicator just to find out what Fido is thinking. They come because there's been a divorce, and they're worried about mental and emotional health. They're worried because there's a physical problem with the animal, or there's a behavior problem between one or two animals. And although communication can be miraculous and in 30 minutes shift everything, many, many times it is not enough. And I feel like one of my concerns is I don't want the power of what we do, if you're continuing to learn and continuing to hone a variety of skills, to be dampened or diminished by people saying, well, okay, so that person told me that my bird doesn't like its food and its stomach hurt, but the vet still can't figure it out, and they don't have any, and that's all. That didn't help me. Or my dog is sad. Great. Awesome. I want people to be able to do a lot more, and to be able to, like, I just got a text message like 5 minutes before this call saying, my dog just ate her entire meal and she hasn't eaten for 2 weeks. Is that going to be permanent? I don't know. But I do know, because I was able to shift the human's energy and the animal's energy, that there's a lot less tension in that belly and that back, and a lot less worry. So that's what I want animal communicators to be able to do. And I'm not sure that all of them have that training, but I could be wrong.
Well, I personally can speak to that, because as you're right. I'm coming to this a little later in life. I turned 51 this year, and have a background. Yeah, woo! So 50s are the new 40s, and 50s are the best. I don't know. Oprah says the 60s are the best, and probably when she hits 70, we'll discover that the 70s are the best. I don't know. I just feel like I keep improving every year. Like, I was an amoeba in my 20s, and in my 30s I started to at least subdivide, and now here I am. But we all have to start somewhere. So, those of you who are brand new and thinking, oh my gosh, because there is so much out there, and it is wonderful to have this wide open world where maybe not everybody believes, maybe not everyone has given themselves the opportunity, because a belief tends to end up getting kind of encapsulated or encoded in somebody that hasn't allowed themselves to experience it and make up their own mind. So they're just like, oh no, that can't possibly be true. Sometimes people have a bad experience too. I've worked with clients who said, well, this other animal communicator just told me like exactly what you said. My animal is sad, or my dog's stomach hurt, or whatever. And it's like, okay, good information, but what do I do next? And so it's the next part, and understanding that this journey will unfold, and setting an intention when you start. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be able to do anything, but what's really good to understand is that you have a whole network around you, and building a referral base, understanding that you may have certain a predisposition or a special gifting or a special area of interest, that maybe like I have colleagues that almost exclusively they're just passionate about working with lost animals. That is really not something I do. I tend towards medical intuition, and it will always, there are communicators that specialize in end of life transition, pet hospice, afterlife communications, pet mediumship. We tend to have a smattering of it all, but it's just a choice whether you want to stay as a generalist. But the key is to set an intention to attract pet parents whom you are uniquely equipped to help. And that's a bigger piece of what you're talking about, Kara, where it's like when we're starting to realize, I really want to be of service. Like I really care. That can be a big thing to take on. Like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to care that much. Oh my God, I don't know if I want to be awake at 2 a.m. thinking about, the sobbing person that I held space for an hour on the phone or on Zoom or, earlier today. And it's like setting yourself up for success in your own personal life behind the scenes so you can be there for someone else, understanding the mechanics of crafting a message and tapping into your mission and putting the systems and the processes in place. You don't go crazy when you start to get busy like you are, Kara, when you're like, wait a minute, I have 5 million things to do. Maybe, it's just like, so putting a firm foundation under yourself and just being willing to take it step by step. So, let's talk about that a little bit, that overwhelm that comes up. Let's say somebody is listening to this right now and they're like, I've met several people that I've taken classes alongside. They don't really want to do this professionally per se, like, choose their pricing and go into all of the gritty, granular details of building a business, but they're very connected with an animal charity. And they would really love to help with placements, to help connect with animals and make sure that that placement is a good fit for the animal and the person. Whatever your passion is, let's talk about, being able to get started without walking out on a tightrope with no safety net and feeling like I don't have the integrity and the breadth of training, because we all have to start somewhere, right? So where would you suggest? Like, I know you have classes, I know you have mentorship. Like if you were talking to somebody that was brand new, like how would you guide them to get started? Maybe working with you, just,
I teach, my focus with my main signature course is animal lovers who have some spiritual connection. They're more spiritually minded, metaphysically minded. And I teach animal communication and energy work and some of my special types of guided visualizations and things for them to be able to use in their home on their animals. So the people that come to me generally have a house full, and they have maybe one or two that are not getting along, or one who may be older, and they want to support it. So I like to think of pet owners as spiritual animal guardians, and I help them to work on themselves first. So there's a lot of personal development training combined with the animal metaphysical, energetic training, and the communication. So it's a month-long course. That there are a few people that will go on from that and work with me at a deeper level, or if I don't think I'm the right person for them, I will refer them to another school that I think is excellent for them. Because I'm not a school, and I don't have that aspiration at this moment. Gotcha. I am a teacher, and I also know what I'm great at teaching, and I call myself an animistic. Nobody understands the term.
I love that. I love that.
But I spell it ANIMYSTIC. Now, animism, spelled with 2 I's, means that everything is imbued with life. I have a deep British mysticism, Druidic kind of background. And so I like to have people see the connections between all life. And then it's not too many steps away from talking to your dog to talking to the tree outside, or the wind, or the fire, So that's kind of where I sit. But what would I suggest? Your question was, what would I suggest to someone getting started? You need to find the people you resonate with, because you're going to spend a lot of time talking to me as a teacher, talking to someone else as a teacher, and also be aware of the larger schools. Like, you're not going to be talking to the teacher as much. So you're going to be talking to some of their assistants. See if you can meet those assistants before you do that, or be part of a free Facebook group and see if you like that vibe. That's what I would suggest. Once you've had some training, look, I feel you should have about 60 cases under your belt before you are talking to anybody that someone has looked at with you or jumped in and helped you, and said, nope, that's not right. You've had some counsel at that level. So you have a degree of confidence, whether you're going to charge or you're not going to charge, that you're fairly accurate. We're not going to get it 100% of the time. And one of my failings, and I'm sure many other animal communicator failings, is I want to be 100% accurate 100% of the time, and I will beat myself up into the ground. So I think if anybody's watching this who is not an aspiring animal communicator, who's just a person wondering what the heck this is, like, please know, we want to be, we feel terrible when we cannot help you. If something doesn't shift or move, we want to be 100% accurate. And we are, if we've done our stuff, we're very accurate a lot of the time, but this is not an exact science, And I guess the other thing, and this is just occurring to me, so forgive me if I'm rattling on a little bit.
I love it. I love it. I'm learning a lot.
One of the biggest challenges for us as animal communicators is being really pure. Do you remember when you did your first 2 or 3 readings in your training, and you would just say, I see red flowers around the horse, right? Right? That's what you see. Instead of when you've done 3,000 to 4,000 readings, once you see that red line inside of a dog's stomach, it's very likely that you're going to say that's IBD. Or instead of saying, I'll give an example from my very early animal communication days. I saw a dog and the dog said, I love my purple, right? And I saw a flash of purple fabric. And I made the human interpretation that was a blanket. So I said, I think he likes his purple blanket. And the woman said, we don't have a purple blanket. What are you talking about? We don't have a purple blanket. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And you just had to I guess that wasn't accurate.
Oops.
And she came back to my booth. This is in the days before COVID, many years ago.
Right.
And she came back a little bit later and she was like, oh my gosh. She goes, you weren't seeing a blanket. You were seeing this. And she had a purple vest, fuzzy.
Brilliant.
So being very exact, and not trying to overinterpret it so you feel smarter, but saying, I see this and it feels this way, has always helped me. Now, maybe someone, as you were saying earlier, who is a better seer of entire movies would have broader, deeper interpretations of that. Whereas I'm really good at the relationships between people and animal and getting 2 animals to start getting along. We all have our jam, right? So
our thing, our wonderful thing. And, and I love what you're bringing up because, there is something to be said for spending that time talking with animals, working with other newbie communicators within your community, because there will be a community there when you do decide to kind of step up to the plate and dig in a little deeper and start to learn what others have learned before you, and follow in the footsteps of the masters, and bounce ideas off one another. And some of my fellow communicators do see movies. I tend to get these just what I call drop-ins. I just get a little nugget of just knowing. I just know something and I know how the piece, but it's so important to start understanding how your intuition talks to you, and there's, in fact, those of you who are listening who are interested in that, I have a free 5-day animal communication camp it's under Learn With Me, I think is what it's called, on my animallovelanguages.com website, which I don't even think I've mentioned until now. Talk about needing business basics, right? To learn how to market yourself. But you can find that. It just walks you through 5 different ways that you may receive intuitive data from your animal. You probably got resources and a great blog and lots of other resources as well. And, just starting to realize, okay, well, I tend to be someone who takes in a lot of information visually. I tend to be someone that hears a lot. I tend to be someone that, I remember the first time a cat sent me a smell. She really loved, the owner was going on vacation, and she really loved the smell of his dirty socks. I was like,
that's not surprising.
yeah.
And in my courses, I do train people to get stronger about they figure out what clair is strongest for them, which is what you're talking about. But then we work on developing the others. But I think that's called clairgustance, right? When you smell, isn't that right?
I believe so. It smell, and I don't know if there's like clear.
There's 8 of them.
I know, but I'm blanking on the word for the nose. Nasal, olfactory, clairgustance has got to be like tasting, which but it might encompass nose. At any rate, you'll learn. I mean, there's lots of ways to receive information. Right. I was kind of a remedial student at first because I didn't understand that I was getting these knowings until I worked with a mentor, and she volunteered to just help me. She was one of our course mentors, and I was like struggling. She was like, wait, you've already got the information. Just tell me what you know. And she was like, it can be that fast. So it's like really understand, just giving yourself the opportunity. Like, I love what you said, it's about working with that human. A lot of people get into this work because they want to help animals. And it's like, well, first of all, we are animals too. Second of all, when you're trying to help an animal, that animal is now or has been in the past attached to a human animal. And you're going to be interacting in most cases through a human in some capacity to connect with. And I remember the first time my teacher told me, okay, we're going to, I want you to tune into the human first. I was like, oh, okay, I'm out of here, So it's like I really had that mindset, and now I love it. Because there is such an ability to make new friends, to make an impact, but it's really just giving yourself that. I love how you start people working with their own animals, and because that's the best playground for our extrasensory perception skills to unfold.
Yeah, the goal is to end up being connected to your own animals and managing whatever is going on in your home. They do talk to other animals who are in the group and to my own animals, which I have 4 of several times. So you get a good, 7 to 10 outside of your home experiences. But then every week I'm checking with you. It comes with private sessions with me to work on the energy skills. On the problem in your house. So if you have a big barker, we're working on that, but we're working on it energetically combined with animal communication, for example. And then some of those people who are truly more spiritually, mystically minded, they might come to me for more in-depth training on a private level. But I think it's really important that people understand that that client, I want to bring that back to a minute, the client management. If you say things the wrong way to a client, you could actually harm that animal. Because if you upset the client, then, by criticizing maybe how they've been negligent without really understanding that they've been negligent, it shuts them completely down. Right. So that, and the other thing is I think a fault for myself and other newbie animal communicators is often that we want to say everything that we see because we want to be accurate, and we're so trying for that A, just like we were back in 6th grade. Yeah. And there are times when you need to understand, like, we don't always know the cosmology or the spirituality of the person on the other end. So just because you believe in reincarnation does not necessarily mean that will be a welcome message on that side.
Yeah.
Or how softly you kind of work into the conversation, well, we'd like this to happen, because you can shut them down. And what we need to do is to help that animal. And sometimes helping that animal means being very careful with the words that we choose. And I feel like it would be great not to always say, if you see a larger purpose for something, let's say you see a larger soul purpose for something, right? But right now, that owner is in the depths of grief. Maybe this is not the reading where they need to hear that. Maybe 2 readings later or a year later, they can hear that their dog died because it was necessary for them to learn the process of compassion. But today, if you're reading their energy, as you just said, you're reading their energy, if you sense that they're not strong enough to take that, I personally would move that session more toward a grief energy session using EFT or something different, so we can lighten the room. And then Fido can come and give them more messages, or the horse can come and give them more messages, because they're not so clouded. If you know how the aura feels really clouded, right? I feel like I've been rattling, and I'm sorry.
You haven't been rattling, and I feel like this is a kind of a perfect place to kind of almost came back full circle from where we started. You know, this is a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation that we're having, and it's just happening. I know. Did you wake up again? You were roosting so happily. We're just having it across these boundaries. But, you know, in a conversation, we're not expecting, to solve a mathematical proof. You know, we're not expecting to gather hard statistical data. Where we're always unfolding our ability to relate to and connect with and be of the highest service to other beings. And it doesn't really matter after a certain point. It doesn't really matter what species we are. We all send out certain energetic signatures for how much we can hold, for how open we want to be. As I've continued along this journey, I have less and less interest really in which species I'm relating to, outside of certain characteristics that, genetically or whatever, warm-blooded, cold-blooded, that sort of thing. Just realizing that in essence, we're more alike than different. We're going to open up at our own pace. We are going to be able to evolve at our own pace, and being sensitive and present, very present for that conversation that's unfolding. And exactly what you just said, Kara, like if you're not able to be intensely present for whoever you're conversing with at any given time, then not only is there the chance that you're going to miss something incredibly important that's going to be beneficial to you both, but it just kind of points to doing a little bit more self-work behind the scenes. Because one of my business coaches says, your business or your practice is the territory for your soul's expansion. And it's like, wow, that's daunting and awesome. But it's like everything I do, I need to be able to bring my whole self into that moment. That is that's a tall order. It's a big goal. It's like the best. But so, those of you who are listening again, this has been probably this is a stretch. I told Kara I wanted to start let's stretch a little bit, because we've been, we've had a lot of awesome guests. We've talked, about, hearing people's personal stories and really understanding that this is a thing. Sometimes after you hear it enough and there's enough people that you really respect and you think, wow, this is something, like maybe this is something I can have brave enough courage to, pursue, even if maybe not everybody or nobody in my life really gets it, or, thinks I'm not crazy for trying to do it. But, on the other hand, it's like, it can be serious business. We're dealing with the biggest events in life: birth, death, illness, and most importantly, our relationships, and so it's worth being able to bring our best selves into those moments. Kara, they can find you at petseyeview.com. Do you have anything special going on right now, or kind of coming up for this year that people might be interested in? Ways to keep in touch with you?
I'm taking waiting list applications for my next Animal Soulmate Fellowship. It's a 30-day program with up to four private sessions with me of an hour and a half in length to work energetically with you to improve your skills. And you will have 3 Zoom sessions, courses, 2 hours in length with other people to learn a variety of animal communication and energy work techniques that I think are important for anyone to have, because animal communication is something you're going to maybe buy a few times a year, maybe in one-off sessions. But I like to think if we can train a lot of people to have more of this beginning skill, but also the energy healing in their home, they will know. Like, I've had students graduate that course and call me 2 months later and show me pictures of their dog's leg and say, I see it as bigger. Do you see it as bigger? Because no one in my house feels that it's bigger, but I feel like I need a second opinion. And I'll say, you're absolutely right. They go get a second opinion. They find out that their 2-year-old dog has a bone condition inside the bone, that will potentially be cancer later. So now they're under constant monitoring. So I feel like the more people that I can train to be sacred animal guardians, the better. So if they want to write me about that, they can. And there's always something going on in my Facebook group, which is called Animal Whisperer. Okay.
Yes, there is. And I just deeply encourage you to connect with Kara and her community. I think what you're doing is wonderful, very caring, very present, and full of integrity, which is really, really important. And please don't, if those of you who are listening, who maybe this is your very first podcast, you're like, whoa, we're talking about so many, don't get overwhelmed, just say yes to the experience. Say yes to having the experience. My first experiences were with free YouTube videos. I was just like, let me just see if I can even do this. And I was shocked myself by getting some things, right. I don't even love that word, but just hearing, I'm actually having a conversation. It's like, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about, no, I'm actually having this conversation. So I'm hearing from the animal. Of course, there's no right or wrong with that. There's just the animal's truth. So just start, just give it a try. Whether you want to talk to trees or ladybugs, or as you said, or it's all species welcome. All species welcome. You can also head over to animallovelanguages.com, and there we go again, Business 101, and check out the free tools and the 5-day animal communication camp and the 4-part free intuitive pet parent workshop, where you can see more of Pearl. I think that's the most important thing to emphasize there. Nobody shows up for me. So Kara, it's been a delight. I will include all of your contact information in our show notes, and hopefully maybe we can circle back at a later date and do something more specific to energy healing and some of those different techniques, and help new people break that down a little bit. Like, where do you even start? So, but thank you for being here. If you've enjoyed today's podcast or vlogcast episode, depending on where you found us, please leave us a 5-star rating, leave us a review, send us a comment, tell us if you have any questions. We'd be happy to interact with you, and head over to the podcast page on Animal Love Languages, and you can catch all of our episodes. So look forward to seeing you again next week, and take very good care for now. Okay, bye-bye.